mistake of disregarding their IP till the last moment, because when you get an idea, you run with it, but then it can sometimes hold you back when you want to eventually go protect your IP, because then you may have disclosed something that should have kept, undisclosed, because maybe there are requirements regarding disclosure for certain types of IP. So IP is not just some idea, it's an asset for a business. It's an intangible asset, but it's still an asset, right? And as assets do, they grow any portfolio of any business. And so investors are always looking at the IP portfolio of any business, particularly startups. And so you want to make sure that you have your roles and your IP protected and in place. And once that is in place, there's more opportunity to optimize your IP. That is, how can you build it and make it even better, and then monetize it through different licensing schemes. And well, we can go on about the type of commercial ways you could look at your IP and grow it more. Yeah, so it is very important to protect your IP. Besides, you also want to be rewarded for something that you have created out of, nothing. As much as they say there is nothing new under the sun, you can bring your own perspective to things that makes them so unique and original. And some things are truly just non-obvious and completely new. So you want to be rewarded for that too. So it's both a system of defense and a system of reward. So protect and then reward. Of course, there's other theories about how IP should be dealt with. Many people would argue that ideas should be freely given, which is the ones that would be in the open sourced software and type of licensing camp. You could argue for that too, and I'm fine with that. I think we all should have an open mind. Sometimes as a creator, you want to just share your work, and that is fine with you. If that is something you have reconciled yourself with, that you don't necessarily want to make money from them, and you have created something for the greater good. But sometimes, it's return to investment if particularly a large R&D, research and development, has gone into that. And so you want to make sure, just even if you do not want to ask people for money, that you just at least have it protected, so you can enter into free licensing agreements and still maintain ownership of your asset. So there are many different ways to look at it. So, but still, the point is just make sure when you start as an entrepreneur that you look after your IP. Look at it first, as one of the things that you should be ticking off when you're starting off your business. Just like you would go check an accountant off, or an auditor, you would have your tax people. It's the same thing. You just have to go by everything, and IP is one of that. We can't talk about business strategy without talking about IP strategy. It does half of the work for the marketing team if you can deal with that,
So tell me, so when you're starting your business, your advice would be, when you're starting your business, consider your IP straight away.
Yeah, try to consider your IP straight away. You don't have to think about this too deeply. Just look at the places where IP or even the economy booms, right? Or a country. So in the United States, you could look at Silicon Valley. The best place for any IP specialist is Silicon Valley, or Singapore, or the fastest growing IP market, which is right now China, or in Japan. So these are the places. If you look at economical development, you would quickly have a parallel between the growth of IP and then the growth of the economy. And so to dismiss it, it would be to your detriment as an entrepreneur. Because most of the businesses in Silicon Valley, although maybe just tech oriented, those are based on ideas that are then created into software, into apps, whatever these big tech companies are doing there. And all of that is IP. For example, Apple does not manufacture in the States, nor does it does not own a lot of things, but they own a lot of IP. They own the Apple brand, they own the schematics of the design of the Apple phones, but everything else, everyone else creates for them, whether it's being done in China or wherever, but they own the IP. And they have become a global company of the top three level that have just built a brand and created so much wealth around their IP. IP really is, if it's not been something that we should talk about before, it should certainly be something we talk about now because of the global digital market that we are all playing in right now. You can't think
Mm-hmm.
of things in isolation anymore. So you need to make sure you're not just providing any solution, because that is what creativity is and ideas and innovations are. It's a solution to something people may not have thought about is a problem, but or something that is a glaring problem. So if you want to create that, you can't only think right now in 2021 about a solution that will only touch local customers or clients, right? It will be global, and you should try to have it global, because I mean, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have to go play with the big guys, and so make sure you set yourself up to do that type of play. You know, make sure you know the rules. Make sure you at least set yourself up in a proper manner, and then you can go and engage these deeper markets and unknown terrains.
This is wonderful advice, Cicely. And so let's talk
Yeah.
about, since we're talking about this, and then we'll back up and we'll talk about some other stuff. But since we're talking about
All
this now,
right.
let's talk about enteric and
In,
how you
in
created that
trick.
to, yes, to help other people with their intellectual property and protect it. So what kind of services would we receive if we came to you?
Well, Intric was created a long time ago because, as I said, when I came to my final year in law school, I fell in love with intellectual property. And then I just knew I have to pursue it much deeper. And so I went and did my master's that specializes in intellectual property. And so I knew at that time already, as a I'm just entering my early 20s. I knew that was something I would do, but then I just thought, let me try and establish myself as far as experience and those type of things are concerned, to just get honed in some work experience and skills that are beyond just dealing with IP right. And so that was kind of in the mind already. But I think it became so much more urgent last year. I think beginning of the year, after holiday, it was just this thing that was right at the edge of my skin. It just couldn't leave me alone. And so, yeah, I just thought somewhere along the line, I have to provide some form of intellectual property thing. I didn't know yet what kind in Namibia. And I also didn't want to have a normal setup like a law firm, right? I wanted
Mhm.
something that had a freedom, because I don't just want to have to be a legal agent of sorts, but I have the flexibility of creative and innovation, innovative consultations that are not restrained by legal rules from the law society and all that other stuff, right? And so, yeah, so Intrigue was eventually born just after I went through the business accelerator. I came up with the name and everything else before that. But the accelerator program, I created a business, a course through that. And that, what I would say, what the business accelerator did for me was, as much as